From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Sunday evening confirmed the first Filipino fatality in the escalating conflict in the Middle East. In a recorded message, the president identified the victim as Mary Ann Velasquez de Vera, a caregiver from Pangasinan province working in Israel. According to the report submitted to the Philippine government, De Vera was bringing her elderly ward to a bomb shelter when they were overtaken by the attack before reaching safety. President Marcos said De Vera's husband, also an overseas Filipino worker or OFW in Israel, has positively identified her remains. The chief executive assured the family of full government assistance, adding that the government is closely monitoring the situation of Filipinos across the region as hostilities continue. Philippine embassies and labor offices in the Middle East remain on heightened alert amid rising tensions. The latest surge in violence follows a major military operation launched by the United States and Israel against Iran on Saturday, an action Washington said was aimed at weakening Tehran's military capabilities and addressing what it described as a nuclear threat. Iran retaliated by firing drones and missiles toward Israel and striking U.S. military facilities in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar, further heightening instability in a region home to millions of overseas Filipino workers.
Ikinalulungkot ko na meron po tayo natanggap na report na meron na pong casualty na Pilipino dito po sa gera na nangyayari sa Middle East. Na-report po sa atin ay namatay po ang isang Mary Ann Velasquez de Vera na tigang Pangasinan. Siya po ay isang caregiver sa Israel na tinutulungan ang kanyang alaga para dalhin sa bomb shelter, ngunit hindi na po nakaabot sa bomb shelter at inabutan na sila bago sila nakarating. Siya ay namatay dahil tinamaan ng shrapnel ng mga bumagsak na bomba. Na-identify na po siya ng kanyang asawa na isang OFW din na nagtatrabaho sa Israel. Lahat po ng tulong na kakailanganin ng kanilang pamilya ay ihahatid ng ating pamahalaan. Patuloy po ang ating pag-monitor sa kalagayan ng ating mga kababayan na nasa gitna nitong gera, patuloy pa rin sa Middle East. Asahan po ninyo na pagka meron tayong maire-report, ay ire-report ko po sa inyo kagad.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Earlier, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said the government has been closely tracking developments in the Middle East after Israel and the United States launched airstrikes against Iran, which responded by targeting American bases in the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Oman, and Israel. President Marcos emphasized that Philippine embassies and labor offices across the region were already on heightened monitoring as early as Saturday afternoon. According to the President, Filipinos in affected areas have moved to safer locations, including bomb shelters, and are keeping distance from potential targets such as American military installations. President Marcos noted that the situation remains volatile and that the government's monitoring efforts will continue. With millions of overseas Filipino workers based across the Middle East, the Philippine government remains on alert as regional tensions rise.
Sa palagay ko po ay nambalitaan nyo na po na binomba ng Israel at saka ng Amerika ang Iran. At ang Iran naman ay sumagot bomba naman ng mga American base sa United Arab Emirates, sa Bahrain, sa Oman at siyempre sa Israel. Alam naman natin na napakarami ang Pilipino diyan sa bandang Middle East. I'm sure nag-aalala kayo sa inyong mga kilala, mga kaibigan at mga kaanak na nandun. Mula nung nabalitaan natin na nagsimula itong gera, ay nagmo-monitor na kami kahapon pa ng late afternoon sa ating mga embassy, sa ating mga labor attaché, sa lahat ng mga embassy natin doon sa Middle East. At ngayon ay patuloy ang aming pag-monitor para tiyakin na nasa magandang kalagayan ang ating mga kababayan sa Middle East. Ang ating tuloy-tuloy na binabantayan dahil ito'y kailangan natin tuloy-tuloy na bantayan at hindi ito tapos pa. Patuloy po ang pagre-report natin habang dumadating po ang report sa akin.
On Saturday, President Marcos Jr. ordered the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA and the Department of Migrant Workers or DMW to activate full safety measures for Filipinos in the Gulf region following coordinated airstrikes by the United States and Israel on Iran. In a post on X, the President said the government is gathering more information on the attacks and has directed concerned agencies to roll out contingency plans immediately. President Marcos stressed that the safety of Filipinos in Iran and the wider Middle East is the top priority, instructing officials to determine the whereabouts of Filipinos in affected areas and ensure they are moved to secure locations. The DFA echoed the government's concern over the sharp escalation of tensions and urged all parties to pursue dialogue to restore stability in the region. Foreign Affairs Secretary Maria Teresa Lazaro assured the President that the Philippine embassies in Tehran and Tel Aviv are on full alert and ready to assist Filipinos who may be affected. Embassies across Gulf Cooperation Council countries, home to large Filipino communities, have also raised their alert levels.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of National Defense or DND is maintaining tight, continuous monitoring of the fast-evolving security situation in the Middle East, working closely with the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA, the Department of Migrant Workers or DMW, and other government agencies. Defense officials say the Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP remains on standby, fully prepared to respond to any requirement involving overseas Filipinos, including evacuation operations should they be ordered. At present, the conflict remains contained within the Middle East, with no direct threat to Philippine territory, or to Filipinos and foreign nationals currently in the country. Authorities are urging the public to stay vigilant against misinformation and fear-mongering, stressing that false reports only heighten unnecessary panic during sensitive situations. Despite the absence of immediate danger, both the DND and AFP are preparing for possible contingencies, including support for evacuation efforts and crisis response coordination for Filipinos in affected countries, depending on how the situation develops. Officials emphasize that the protection of Filipinos overseas remains a top national priority, especially amid a rapidly shifting regional security landscape. In a separate statement, the AFP is calling for the public to stay calm, think critically, and rely only on verified government channels for updates as tensions in the Middle East continue to escalate. The AFP emphasized that it remains on full standby to support the national government should the situation worsen. This includes the deployment of personnel and assets to assist affected communities, helping move Filipinos in high-risk areas to safer locations, and coordinating the safe return of Filipinos should conditions require it. According to the AFP, contingency measures are already in place to ensure rapid and coordinated action if ordered. The military stressed that protecting Filipinos, both overseas and at home, remain a top priority, and that it will maintain its heightened readiness while working closely with other government agencies to ensure a proportionate and effective response to any developments. The situation intensified after the United States and Israel launched a joint attack on Iran early Saturday, targeting what they described as threats posed by the Iranian regime. Iran condemned the strikes as a violation of its sovereignty and launched retaliatory attacks. As the conflict widened, several Middle Eastern countries closed their airspace, disrupting thousands of flights across the region. Iranian state television announced that Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed. Fars news agency also reported that Khamenei's daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter were among those killed. Initial Israel strikes reportedly resulted in multiple casualties among Iran's Revolutionary Guard personnel, including key operational staff.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, is moving in full force to assist Filipinos stranded at airports after flight cancellations disrupted travel to the Middle East. DMW Secretary Leo Magpayo visited Ninoy Aquino International Airport, or NAIA Terminals 1 and 3, where hundreds of overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, were unable to depart because of the escalating regional conflict. Joined by Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA Administrator Patricia Yvonne Kaunan, the Secretary checked on the workers' condition and oversaw the distribution of immediate assistance, from food and transportation support to temporary lodging for those with no place to stay. The DMW says all stranded OFWs will receive free accommodation if needed, ensuring no one is left without shelter while waiting for new flight schedules. The agency is also coordinating closely with OWA, airport authorities, and international partners to keep track of the latest developments in the Middle East and adjust support operations accordingly. Officials added that Philippine embassies and migrant workers' offices across the region are on heightened alert, continuously monitoring the situation and preparing for possible evacuation or repatriation should the conflict worsen. The DMW stresses that protecting Filipino workers remains the government's top priority, especially as tensions continue to rise and flight disruptions affect more travelers.
Dateline Malacañang.
In related news, the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, on Sunday said it is on heightened watch over all flight operations as tensions in the Middle East trigger widespread airspace closures and major disruptions across the region. Since Saturday, CAAP has recorded 23 international flight cancellations and 3 flight diversions by various airlines due to safety concerns and restricted airspace. Canceled flights as of March 1st include 2 flights from Cebu Pacific, 8 from Philippine Airlines or PAL, 2 Qatar Airways flight, 1 Gulf Air, 4 Etihad Airways, and 6 Emirates flights. 2 PAL flights and 1 Qatar Airways flight, meanwhile, were diverted. Among the affected PAL flights are PR-684 Manila to Doha and PR-685 Doha to Manila on March 1st, as well as PR-685 on March 2nd. Cebu Pacific also canceled flights to and from Dubai from March 1st to the 4th and Riyadh from March 1st to the 5th. CAAP Director General Lieutenant General Raul del Rosario said the agency is in constant coordination with airlines, airport authorities, and international aviation partners, stressing that passenger safety remains the top priority. CAAP and airline operators are urging passengers to coordinate directly with their airlines for rebooking, refunds, and updated schedules. PAL said the cancellations stem from ongoing operational restrictions in the region and advised passengers to check updates through its website, app, or official social media channels. Cebu Pacific reminded travelers to keep their contact details updated for timely notifications. Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA management advised passengers to confirm bookings before heading to the airport and for those meeting arriving passengers to verify arrival times due to possible schedule changes. Reuters reported that after the U.S. and Israel launched airstrikes on Iran, several countries immediately shut down or restricted their airspace. Israel, Iran, Iraq, and Jordan are fully closed. United Arab Emirates, partially and temporarily closed. Russia suspended flights to Iran and Israel. Lufthansa halted Dubai flights for the weekend, suspended Tel Aviv, Beirut, and Oman routes until March 7th. Air France canceled Tel Aviv and Beirut flights. Iberia canceled Tel Aviv flights. Wizz Air suspended flights to Israel, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Amman. Kuwait halted all flights to Iran. Oman Air suspended flights to Baghdad, and Qatar Airways temporarily halted air traffic as a precaution. Major Middle Eastern carriers, Emirates, Qatar Airways, and Etihad, serve around 90,000 passengers daily, amplifying the impact of the disruptions. Emirates said it is adjusting operations based on guidance from aviation authorities. Dubai authorities advised passengers not to travel to the airport, confirming that Dubai International Airport sustained minor damage from an Iranian strike that injured 4 people. Abu Dhabi International Airport was also hit, with 1 person killed and 7 injured. Virgin Australia warned passengers traveling through Doha to monitor their flight's status closely. According to aviation analytics firm Cirium, 966 of 4,218 scheduled flights to Middle Eastern destinations were canceled on Saturday, with 716 cancellations out of 4,329 scheduled flights on Sunday. FlightAware reported over 18,000 global delays and more than 2,350 cancellations as of Saturday evening. Aircraft have been forced to divert around Cyprus, Egypt, Jeddah, and Riyadh, adding to congestion and delays across multiple regions.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is in good condition and actively working, Malacañang said Saturday, firmly shutting down circulating rumors that he had been rushed to St. Luke's Medical Center in Quezon City. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro told reporters that the president spent Saturday morning in a private meeting with the presidential management staff, underscoring that he remains well, healthy, and working even on a Saturday. Rumors about the president's health have repeatedly surfaced online, including claims that he is suffering from colon cancer and falsified medical records allegedly from St. Luke's. Both Malacañang and the hospital have denied the authenticity of these documents, prompting the National Bureau of Investigation to pursue cases against those responsible for spreading them. The president previously disclosed that he had diverticulitis, an inflammation of pouches in the colon. He took a short break to recover, but has since resumed public engagements and continues to perform his duties with the palace, reiterating that his condition is not life-threatening. Malacañang has repeatedly emphasized that President Marcos's health remains stable and that only speculation is unfounded. Officials stressed that the president, now 68, remains active and fully capable of carrying out his responsibilities.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung is gearing up for a major diplomatic swing through Southeast Asia, with state visits to Singapore and the Philippines at the start of March. Trips aimed at pushing forward cooperation in artificial intelligence or AI, nuclear energy, defense, and key economic sectors. President Lee begins his tour in Singapore from March 1st to the 3rd, where he will sit down with Prime Minister Lawrence Wong for a high-level summit. He will also meet President Tharman Shanmugaratnam and attend a state banquet in his honor. A key highlight of the visit is his participation in the AI Connect Summit, where he is expected to engage with next-generation AI leaders as both countries look to expand collaboration in cutting-edge technologies. From Singapore, President Lee heads to Manila on March 3rd, marking his first state visit to the Philippines since taking office. He will meet with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. for a bilateral summit and state banquet. The two leaders are expected to tackle a wide range of issues from defense and maritime cooperation to infrastructure, nuclear energy, shipbuilding, and critical minerals. The visit also comes as the Philippines and South Korea celebrate 77 years of diplomatic relations, underscoring the long-standing alliance between the two nations. Officials from both sides said the visit will help deepen economic ties, strengthen regional security cooperation, and expand partnerships in future-oriented industries, including AI and nuclear power, areas seen as vital to both countries' long-term growth.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.